You understand machines? You understand that an engine is just contained explosions transformed into forward motion. You are 25 years old, working in a high-end European auto shop in a city that charges you just to breathe the air. Your hands are always stained with oil, and your bank account is always dangerously close to zero. You owe $80,000 in medical debt for a mother who passed away anyway. The hospital does not care about your grief. They care about the collection schedule. You're drowning in a perfectly legal, perfectly ordinary way. The system is designed to keep you at the bottom, turning wrenches for people who earn your annual salary in a single week. Then, on a rainy Tuesday, a man brings in a matty black Audi RS6. He does not ask for an oil change. He asks for a modified suspension. Anti-steer, reinforced rear panels, a secondary fuel cell, and a kill switch that disables all external lights, including the brake indicators. You know what this is. You grew up in neighborhoods where cars modified like this only serve one purpose. But the man drops a thick envelope on your workbench, $10,000, cash, just for the modifications. You take the envelope because morality is a luxury of the financially secure, and you are simply a mechanic providing a service. 2 weeks later, the man returns. He doesn't want another modification. He wants you. The people who usually drive for us, he says, his voice perfectly smooth and devoid of emotion. They panic. They have heavy feet and slow brains. I need a technician behind the wheel, someone who respects physics. One night, $30,000. You do the math in your head. Almost half your mother's debt wiped out in 4 hours of driving. You nod. You cross the invisible line, stepping out of the light and into the shadows. The first job is a blur of adrenaline. You wait in an alley behind a commercial building. 3 men get in. They carry heavy canvas bags that smell like ozone and tension. You don't ask what is inside. You put the car in gear and merge into traffic. Gitas. You don't speed. Speeding attracts the wrong kind of attention. You drive exactly 2 miles over the limit. You time the traffic lights perfectly. You drop the men at an industrial warehouse, take your envelope, and go home to your small apartment. You tell yourself it is a one-time thing. That is the universal lie of the underworld. The most comforting fiction you tell yourself in the dark. It is never a one-time thing. 6 months later, you are the premier logistics specialist for the most sophisticated crew in the city. You don't transport the merchandise. You transport the men who handle the organization's most delicate and high-risk operations. You learn the precise geometry of the metropolis. You memorize police shift changes, the blind spots of municipal traffic cameras, the exact response times of different precincts down to the second. You know that at 3 a.m. on a Sunday, the Southern Bridge is a fatal choke point, but the Industrial Park Access Road is completely dark and unmonitored. You have mapped the entire grid in your mind. You make a tremendous amount of money. You clear your family debt. You buy a luxury apartment overlooking the skyline. You buy a watch that costs more than your first 3 cars combined. But the wealth comes with an invisible, crushing tax. You stop sleeping deeply. Every siren in the distance makes your heart accelerate. Every time a car stays behind you for more than 3 turns, your hands grip the steering wheel until your knuckles turn white. You distance yourself from your friends. You cannot explain how a mechanic suddenly affords a penthouse and bespoke suits. You cannot date, because bringing someone into your life means bringing them into the blast radius of your decisions. Then comes the summons. The architect wants to see you. The architect is the ghost who plans the operations everyone else thinks are mathematically impossible. You meet him in a sterile, empty office building under construction. He lays a digital blueprint on the table. It is a secure subterranean vault utilized by an international syndicate to hold unregistered capital, an untraceable currency, diamonds, and bearer bonds. The total value is estimated at $150 million, the biggest unauthorized transfer of wealth in the decade, the ultimate prize. The entry is math, the architect says, tapping the screen. The acquisition is timing, but the extraction is pure art, and that is why you are sitting in that chair. The plan is meticulous. You have exactly 4 minutes and 20 seconds from the moment the vault's primary alarm is deliberately tripped. If you stay 1 second longer, the tactical response teams seal the grid and lock down every avenue. If you leave 1 second earlier, you leave the crew behind to be processed by the system. Your payout for this single night of work is $5 million. $5 million, a number that buys new identities, private islands, and permanent exits from this life. The preparation consumes your entire existence. You select a modified, heavily armored SUV. You tune the engine until it purrs like a sleeping predator, capable of generating massive torque instantly. You drive the escape route 40 times in the middle of the night. You memorize every pothole, every curb, every shadow cast by the streetlights. You place secondary vehicles in strategic parking structures to act as ghosts in the machine, ready for a clean vehicle swap. The night of the operation arrives. It is pouring rain. The kind of torrential rain that washes the streets clean, slicks the asphalt, and blinds the municipal cameras. Perfect conditions for disappearing. You are parked in the loading dock of the target building. The engine is idling, a low hum vibrating through your boots. The dashboard is entirely dark. You are wearing black gloves. Your hands are perfectly steady, but your stomach is a block of solid ice. The radio earpiece is silent. The digital clock on your dash glows faintly, marking the passage of seconds that feel like hours. 2 a.m. The breach happens. You don't hear explosions. These men are absolute professionals. But you hear the sudden, sharp shift in the ambient noise of the city. The invisible tripwires have been crossed. You press the button on your stopwatch. 1 minute. The radio crackles with static. Vault compromised, loading the merchandise. 2 minutes. You check your mirrors. The street is empty, but the silence feels heavy, pressurized, ready to snap. 3 minutes. The sound of distant sirens begins to slice through the rain. They are coming. Tried response time is faster than the architect calculated. The tactical units were already patrolling the adjacent sector. We have a problem. The radio hisses, the voice tight with suppressed panic. Heavy resistance in the lobby. The timeline is broken. Your pulse skyrockets to 160 beats per minute. The plan was 4 minutes and 20 seconds. It is now 3 minutes and 40 seconds, and the sirens are closing in from 3 different directions. The rational part of your brain, the pure survival instinct, screams at you to put the car in drive and vanish into the night. If you leave now, you survive. If you stay, you go into a federal concrete box for the rest of your natural life. But in the underworld, abandoning the crew means you are done anyway. The syndicate will hunt you down just to prove a point about loyalty. You are trapped between the crushing weight of the law and the merciless judgment of the shadows. 4 minutes and 10 seconds. The heavy steel doors of the loading dock violently kick open. 3 men sprint toward your vehicle, dragging 4 massive duffel bags. One of them is limping badly, leaving a trail of dark drops on the wet concrete. The sirens are deafening now. Red and blue lights begin to reflect off the slick asphalt at the end of the avenue. The authorities have arrived. They throw the heavy bags into the back. They dive into the seats, breathing heavily. "Drive!" one of them screams. "Drive the damn car!" You drop the transmission into gear and slam the accelerator. The heavy SUV launches forward with terrifying violence. The tires biting into the wet pavement. You don't take the planned route. The planned route is already compromised by the approaching lights. You rely purely on instinct and hours of obsessive study. You cut the headlights completely. You drive blind into a narrow service alley, scraping the expensive armored paint against the brick walls, relying solely on spatial memory. A police cruiser swerves to block the exit of the alley. You do not touch the brakes. You accelerate. The sheer mass of your reinforced vehicle slams into the rear quarter of the cruiser, spinning it out of the way with a horrific sound of crunching metal and shattered glass. You break the perimeter. Now, you are on the open avenue. The rain is blinding. Behind you, 3 tactical vehicles are in aggressive pursuit. The chase is not a cinematic fantasy. It is absolute. I'm suffocating terror. Every turn you make at 80 miles per hour on wet pavement flirts with a catastrophic rollover. The men in the back are dead silent, gripping the handles, trusting their lives entirely to your muscle memory and nerve. You execute a high-speed drift onto a lower arterial road. You use the structure of the city against the pursuers. You weave through the concrete pillars of the elevated train tracks, cutting corners so tight that the side mirrors spark against the stone. You know the exact weight distribution of your vehicle. You push the machine to its absolute mechanical limit. You gain 3 seconds of distance. 4 seconds, 5. You reach the designated swap point, an underground parking garage beneath a deserted shopping center. You slide the SUV into the dark lower level, anchored the tires screaming against the slick concrete. You kill the engine immediately. "Out!" you order, your voice shockingly calm. "Leave it." You all transfer the bags to a clean, unremarkable minivan you parked there 2 days ago. You pull out of the garage, moving at the exact speed limit, blending seamlessly into the sparse late-night traffic. 2 minutes later, 4 tactical units fly past you in the opposite direction, their sirens wailing, heading toward the abandoned smoking SUV. You did it. You pulled off the absolute impossible. An hour later, in a sterile warehouse outside the city limits, the bags are unzipped. The wealth inside is incomprehensible. Stacks of high-denomination bills, flawless stones, encrypted hard drives containing digital fortunes. The architect divides the shares in silence. Your portion is transferred instantly to a secure, decentralized offshore structure. You are richer than you ever dreamed. You have enough money to vanish completely and live like a king. You drive back to your penthouse as the sun begins to rise, bleeding gray light over the city. The streets look peaceful in the morning light. You walk into your beautiful, perfectly silent apartment. You pour yourself a glass of water. You look at your hands. They are finally shaking. The adrenaline crash is violent, sickening, and absolute. You open your laptop to check the news. The heist is the only thing broadcasting on every channel. The authorities are calling it an act of professional terrorism. The syndicates that owned the vault are offering a bounty that defies all logic. The entire global network of both law enforcement and organized crime is looking for the crew. They are looking for the mastermind. They are looking for the driver. Your burner phone vibrates on the marble counter. It is a single, encrypted message from the architect. The ecosystem is compromised. The syndicate knows. The authorities have the traffic footage. We need to disappear. Do not contact anyone. Do not trust the shadows. The screen goes black. The phone wipes itself clean. You stand perfectly still in your multi-million-dollar penthouse. You thought the money was the exit door. You were entirely wrong. The money was the lock turning on the cage. You cannot spend a single dollar of that wealth without triggering international financial tripwires. You cannot go to an airport because facial recognition systems will instantly flag your profile. You cannot walk down the street to buy a cup of coffee without wondering if the man reading the newspaper on the bench is a federal agent or a syndicate tracker sent to permanently resolve the problem. You walk slowly to the floor-to-ceiling windows and look down at the beautiful city below. You used to navigate those streets with freedom, joy, and unmatched skill. Now, they are a grid of fatal threats. Every camera is an enemy. Every siren is a countdown to your demise. Every knock on the door could be the end of your existence. You wanted to be the man who always gets away. And you did. You got away from the scene perfectly. But you will never get away from the consequence. You traded your freedom, your peace of mind, and your entire identity for abstract numbers on a screen that you can never touch. You are the greatest getaway driver of the decade, and your ultimate reward is an eternity of looking in the rearview mirror, checking the locks and waiting for the day they finally catch up. Because in this dark world, nobody drives fast enough to outrun the past.